African leaders, when will you learn? When will you learn the simple truth that the United Nations is not for you? The United Nations General Assembly is not for you. All of you have run to UNGA now. UNGA 78. Okay. Are you not aware that the UNGA is responsible for the UNGA in your various countries? UNGA 78 is connected to the hunger in your country, to the hunger in Africa. And the sooner you realize it, the better for Africa. Can you not see that they are not taking you seriously? The time has come for you to apply a different approach, and that approach I will talk about in this video. By the way, you are welcome to The Truth on Refresh Nigeria, where we tell you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, because we strongly believe that you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. It is the truth that will set Africa free. The United Nations General Assembly is not for you, O African leaders. You should have realized this by now. The global north, not even the global north now, the US-led West, they are not taking you seriously. And they will not take you seriously until you change your approach. So what do you need to do? You need to boycott the United Nations General Assembly. All of Africa will not be taken seriously until they boycott the United Nations General Assembly. Year in, year out, African leaders keep complaining about the fact that Africa is not represented in the UN Security Council. Year in, year out, for the most of my adult life, for the past 20 years, that argument has been made. What has changed? For the past 20 years, the complaints have been made about how every time an African leader is addressing the United Nations General Assembly, the hall is empty. The world powers, the leaders of the global north are not in the hall. Does that not tell you that you are not being taken seriously, O African leader? By the way, what is the wisdom in all of you African leaders rushing to the United Nations in New York, United States of America? If Africa is not represented in the as a permanent member in the United Nations Security Council, the least they can do is put the headquarters of the United Nations in Africa. Let them all gather in Africa. In fact, put the headquarters of the United Nations in Abuja, Nigeria, since Nigeria is the most populous black nations in Africa. Put the headquarters of the United Nations in Abuja. Let all the countries gather in Nigeria every year for the United Nations General Assembly, not New York. That is the only time they will take Africa seriously. As long as all of you gather yourselves, waste your taxpayers' money for flights, for logistics, for all the entourage you carry, media people, your aides and all that, as long as you keep wasting Africa's mean resources, wasting it on the trip to the United Nations General Assembly, Africa will never know development. They are not taking you seriously now. Can't you see? Can't you see? Every time an African leader is speaking, the hall is empty. Can't you see? Meanwhile, look at the speech that Ruto gave. For me, that's the best speech so far. I can't even reckon with the speech of my president. But the speech that Ruto gave, complaining about what we see happening in our very eyes, about how the global north is working behind the scene to destabilize Africa. And yet the call for United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, and African leaders attend, And then African leaders are speaking, they are complaining, and they are not even in the hall. The global north, the leaders of the US-led West, they are not even in the hall to hear the complaint from African leaders. When are you going to learn, oh African leader, that the UNGA is not for you, and that UNGA is responsible for the hunger in your countries? And what you need to do to get a different result is for you to boycott UNGA altogether. That is the only way Africa will be taken seriously. Until the whole of Africa comes together to do this, nobody will take them seriously. Nobody will take them seriously. Oh my God. Look at what happened in Niger. Look at what happened in Niger. Let's even just put aside the fact that, okay, there was a coup in Niger. There was a coup in Niger. In the face of that coup, legitimate or not legitimate as you might consider the military junta in Niger, they issued the ambassador of France eviction notice, and he said he's not leaving. And African Union kept quiet. You see, justice cannot be sacrificed for the global north. Can that happen in US? Can that happen in Europe, where the ambassador of an African country is asked to leave and he says he will not leave? The ambassador of Russia, the US ambassador to Russia is asked to leave Russia and he said he will not leave? Or the Russian ambassador to US is asked to leave US and he said he will not leave? Let's even forget those big and powerful countries. The ambassador, the Nigerian ambassador to US is asked to leave United States of America and he said he will not leave? Just to tell you that they are not taking you seriously, oh African leader. And the time has come for us to start doing things differently. They talk of military coup when every year we are faced with civilian coup. And all of you that do these things, you fail to see that you are only hurting yourself. Every conflict in Africa is masterminded by this elite group of people in the US-led West. 78% of the small or light arms that are needed to perpetrate conflict in Africa is manufactured by China. So it simply means that if weapons flow is controlled from these US-led West and even the East, there'll be peace in Africa. Which means that we can blame the insecurity, we can blame the conflict in Africa, the destabilization of Africa, we can blame it on the global north, whether it is the US-led West or Russian or China-led East. You can blame it on them. And the two of them put together, they are not taking Africa seriously. And this is why. Because our leader goes shamelessly to them. I don't understand the wisdom behind African leaders going to UN General Assembly, something that's called United Nations, and they are making a speech, they are relaying their complaint, and nobody is listening. The people they are complaining to are not in the hall to hear. So what is the wisdom in attending the UN General Assembly in the first place? You know, when I look at all of these things, I see the Berlin Conference of 1895, or is it 1885? I see it all over again, where Africa is looked upon with disdain. That is what I see. And it is a shame that you African leaders, inclusive of you Ruto, inclusive of you Ramaphosa, you African leaders are quiet while Africa is being trampled upon. It is not to go to the United Nations General Assembly to give speech. That's not what Africa needs. Africa needs action. And the action we need is simple. Don't attend the UN General Assembly anymore until changes are made. Until the headquarters of the United Nations General Assembly is brought to Africa, brought to Abuja in Nigeria, until Africa is made a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Don't attend the UNGA. They will not take you seriously. All these complaints that you are making about the inequalities between the global north and global south, about how the global north has consistently refused technological transfer, technological knowledge transfer that will result in the rapid and aggressive industrialization of the global south, particularly Africa. They have refused. And they say they have your interest at heart, and you say you want to go and discuss what again at the United Nations General Assembly? What? They will not take you seriously until you take yourselves seriously. They will not take you seriously until you engage differently. And how do you engage differently? African leaders, I'm speaking to you. Listen to the voice of development. The voice you're hearing is the voice of the future, the voice of growth, the voice of industrialization of Africa. Listen to this voice and stop attending UNGA. Attend to the hunger in your various countries. Stop attending UNGA. Pay attention to the development of your various countries. Stop attending UNGA until UNGA is ready to listen to you. Right now, they are not listening. They are not taking you seriously. You keep making the same complaints year in, year out. The complaints are not heard. You keep making the same suggestions year in, year out. They are not heard. While you are speaking, the hall is empty. That is even the most painful. How can the president of my country, Nigeria, be speaking at the UNGA, at UNGA, and the hall is empty? Only his people are there. Even his people that are there, some of them are sleeping. They can't even hear what he's saying. They're not paying attention. Learn now. Can't you see? Why do we keep doing the same things year in, year out, and we're expecting a different result? Why? The time has come for us to apply a different approach. African leaders, the destiny of Africa is in your hands right now. Stop attending the UNGA. Stop attending the UN. Boycott it altogether. That is the only way you will be heard. You cannot be heard if you think you will go there and speak, then they will hear. They can't hear you. The only way to get heard, the only way they will pay attention to you, the only way they will start taking you seriously is if you boycott it. All African nations must boycott it. This is the unity that we need. This is the unity that we need. You're still watching the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on Refresh Nigeria. Our destiny is in our hands.